This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Sterling Fox with you. Nice to have you along with this Monday evening. Our guest in studio is the Director of Clinical Services from JerichoCounselling Clinics, plural, in Vancouver. There are 3 of them. Don Schooler is with us. And Don, just before the break, you identified the 4 major topic headings or categories that most people will end up coming to see you and your colleagues at Jericho Counseling Centers. And they are anxiety, depression, relationships, and addiction. And, we had a couple of seconds during the break here, and I looked at that list, and I went, wait a second. In many cases, that's one person. Yes. That's a package deal because they really do overlap a lot, don't they?
They really, really do. And, there's a number of elements with that. One is, we often get nudged in the direction of seeking out a specialist. Sure. When we've got a challenge. So if I'm having a marriage issue, a relationship issue, I want to seek out a relationship specialist.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that's great. So off you go and you see this relationship specialist, and then we realize that there's an addiction that's underpinning this relationship problem. And then is that relationship specialist able to do the addiction work? Or is that relationship specialist able to do the anxiety work?
And chances are, in many cases, no.
Yes.
I just do this, and you can call my friend over here, and she'll see you. And if
Right.
there are other issues, well, I know someone else who can handle that. At Jericho, you do it all.
Well, and what we do is we actually seek out and recruit skilled generalists. So generalist practitioners who are very comfortable with anxiety, depression,
right.
relationships, addictions, and then they have other specialties outside of that, such as grief and loss. We have people who work with children and little ones, eating disorders, that sort of thing. So we have a variety of specialists as well, but all of our folks are skilled in this sort of cluster, if you will.
Do you have people on staff, Don, who can deal with what is it's sort of new, particularly to a boomer audience, but this whole gender confusion issue that seems to be more and more prevalent among quite young people, generally speaking, high school-aged people. Yeah. Do you have staff people who can deal with those matters?
Absolutely, we do. And, I think a couple of things there. One is there's a different kind of permission to explore those challenges earlier in life than they ever have been, as in when we're young and in the family home. Mm-hmm. And
some things just don't get discussed. Thank you very much.
Indeed, right? Good news, bad news.
That's right.
And so the other is that it's a little bit more accepted, and so there's some places to go and talk about that. But absolutely, right. We have folks who work with clients struggling with gender identity, and we also work with the family connected as well, because it's a whole challenge.
It's a two-way street
itself,
there,
indeed.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's deconstruct some of the better-known categories here.
Sure.
We'll take the number one on your list. What is anxiety?
Well, anxiety is such an interesting and challenging problem, if you will, because two things. One is that the physical experience of anxiety, which is, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased respiration, skin temperature increases, the blood gets shunted to a variety of areas in my body to facilitate this, what we know as the fight, flight, or freeze response. So it's the physiology that goes with the anxiety as we know it is part of an overarching survival mechanism in us. It's wired into our nervous system to keep us alive.
Right. So, but you've just outlined a number of physical actions that occur when we are in a high anxiety state.
Yes.
All of which, to a very lay person's ear, suggests a lot of really high metabolic rate stress.
Yes.
You're walking around just cranked right up all the time.
Right, and the issue with this is that the alarm system, if you will, of the physiological response, it's designed, it was built out in our nervous system to provide short-term support in survival situations.
Right.
All right. So saber-toothed tiger chasing me, fire going through the village. Not not the way we're using it these days, which is, oh, another email. Oh, got to drop the kids off here. Oh, taking a dog out for a walk. Oh, that's how it's working now. And that's the root of, I think, the increase in the disorder of anxiety as we're seeing it in the clinic.
What's the difference between anxiety and neurosis? A person becomes a neurotic because they are all stressed out and too anxious. Is there an equation between the two?
Sure. There's a continuum, if you will, of anxiety in me. And so there's the sort of the more normal manifestation of it where I get anxious before I attend a job interview.
Of course.
I got pretty nervous before I said my wedding vows. That's pretty normal.
That's right.
And if that's not happening, then you should go see your doctor because some part of your nervous system and adrenals they're not functioning.
Well, it's the same in my business. If you're a performer, just that last second before you turn on the mic or you step out onto the stage, you get this thing in your stomach and oh my gosh, and that's really healthy.
Yeah, and it allows us to, that sort of, nervous system jolt, if you will, it improves our eyesight, it improves our hearing, it improves my ability to make connections in my brain, it improves my ability to shoot a basketball, right? So you want that. Then it goes all the way down and down the list of the spectrum or the continuum, and we have, social anxiety and generalized anxiety and post-traumatic stress and all of these things. And neuroses is a particular style where we're paying attention. Some folks would disagree with me, but the notion of paying attention to a particular type of thought that just isn't very helpful. And I get really focused into that kind of a thought loop, and it's fairly flawed and it's not rational. And so the work of defeating neuroses very often is just learning a different way to pay attention. There's rare circumstances where medication would be required, but very rare.
You're not a big pill-popping kind of person, are you? I understand that there are occasions and moments in the human condition when pharmaceuticals are the perfect remedy, but you're not as prone to prescribing as some others are you?
Right. Well, we're really supportive of any client who is on medication or wonders if they should be. There's some times when to not support or recommend medication, it would be really unethical and unprofessional.
Yep.
That said, I think a lot of our clients and a lot of our population, they rightly or wrongly walk into their doctor's offices first and say, I'm struggling with this. And a doctor's job, by and large, is to say, take this.
Right.
We really...
even if it's a conversation about anxiety.
Yes.
Doctor,
Yes.
I can't, my stomach won't settle down. I've stopped eating well.
Acid reflux.
All of this. I mean, I'm wired. I'm twitching. I'm so wired all the time.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to look at you and go, well, you need some downers big time.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me help.
Exactly. And so there's no addressing the cause of why you're so tensed up and so wired up all the time. It's just about dealing with that symptom, correct?
Right. Well, I mean, it's sort of akin to, you've got an issue with your, with your roof or your car, and so you put a patch on the roof, but you don't do anything else. Well, eventually it's going to wear away, and you're going to need to put another patch. Like you can't just take a pill, I believe, and keep doing exactly what you've been doing and expect really much difference to happen.
But we are that kind of people. We've had doctors in on BoomerLife many times, and even the non-traditional Western doctors will tell you when a patient comes to visit them for whatever reason, and they don't get a prescription at the end of the visit. Doc, what's wrong here? I mean, I'm in my doctor's. Aren't I supposed to get a pill? Isn't it like, you get a reward for being behaved in the barber shop? You get a sucker. You go to the doctor's office. If you're good, you get a pill.
That's right.
And doctors will tell you, it's kind of odd, but people really get almost angry if you don't give them a prescription. You say, you don't need a pill.
Yeah.
You need to walk 20 minutes a day. So
Right.
get out there and buy a new pair of shoes. Spend your drug money on a pair of shoes.
Yes. Well, so we're really big supporters of when it's appropriate, skills, not pills.
Okay.
So we're going to help people build some skills. And very often, if you do that, you won't need the pills. Now, if folks are taking pills or they're not able to learn the skills for whatever reason, they're not getting in, then that's a signal also that pills might be a really good idea
Right.
to quiet the mind,
Sure.
to shift that sort of cocktail, the soup in the brain, that allows the learning to happen. And then once that takes hold, over time, and again, we're talking 6 to 12 months here, you can come back off of that medication with medical supervision. We don't do that part. We need to have a doctor involved, but
Sure.
but very often, doctors are telling their patients, just take Prozac, just take Effexor.
Right.
And the research is showing that just Prozac or just Effexor does not have nearly the amount of efficacy or treatment effectiveness as medication plus talk therapy and skill building.
Okay. You've used the word skills in your radio ads. You use the word coping,
Yes.
and you use it a fair bit. So most of us like to believe, Dawn, that we all came fully packaged with a set of coping mechanisms. Maybe not skills, but there are mechanisms that are just part of who we are. Yeah. Is that even true?
Well, to a greater or lesser extent, yes and no. There's a good therapist answer for you.
All right.
I think we do have some physiological mechanisms that, when activated, will allow us to relax.
True.
Will allow us to focus, right? Any of us who have raised little beans, we see that bath time, lotion time, pajama time, story, sleep.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and
Yes.
and even the little one is like, don't read the story because I know it's going to put me to sleep. So we know that those mechanisms are built into our beings. That said, we were not built for this world that we're functioning in. We were not built to work 18 to 20 hours a day, which is what many of us are doing. We were not built to, get up at 5 o'clock, get the kids to daycare by 7, get to our own job by 8:30, work till 4, get back in the car, pick the kids up by 5, get them off to playgroup and soccer and swim class, and then bring them home at 9 and do homework with them before I feed them Captain Crunch and get them back into bed. Like, we were not built for that.
All this on top of being $1 million in debt for having that swell house on the west side.
Right, and we don't even want to get into that.
Right.
So we were not sort of gifted with these sorts of coping mechanisms.
But we flatter ourselves, I think, to the extent that we believe, most of us think that we can handle pretty much anything that comes along.
Yeah.
And by and large, we can.
Yeah.
So where do we go off the rails? Where do we lose it?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to learn how to say no. No to this and no to that. But the larger part,
from time to time,
it really does.
Yes.
And the larger part is figuring out, what's the game? Like, what's important? What am I playing here? Is the game to make all those posts onto Facebook and make sure that I'm wearing the right clothes or driving the right car or living in the right neighborhood? Or is it to be connected to myself and connected to my family and maybe have a little bit less to show off, but to just be calmer and more engaged and a little more content, if you will.
Okay, but suppose an equal amount of people answer affirmatively to both of those options, and you're gonna get a fairly strong contingent who play the game, darn it, to the max every day.
Yeah, and then I say, good for you, as long as that is satisfying and healthful for you. Each of us gets the free will to decide how it is that we want to engage, how we want the legacy we want to leave, how we want to be remembered in our families and our communities. And very often I give people this exercise early in my work with them, which is to write an obituary for yourself. And
interesting stuff. Dwayne likes that one too. Okay.
And make it as detailed as possible.
Right.
And just be curious about what you do want to be remembered for. And that allows us to kind of distill things down into what your core values are and what's really important to you. And very rarely is it all of these other material things.
How long into the process would that request for a self-written obit occur?
Well, it depends on, the work that you're doing. It depends on the connection to the therapist. And not everyone would do that. But certainly I've issued that as homework as early as meeting 2 with someone, meeting 2 or 3.
How would you like to be remembered by everyone?
By everyone.
Interesting stuff. Our guest from Jericho Counseling is the boss. She's the Director of Clinical Services at all 3 locations. Dawn Schooler is in studio with us on Boomer Life here on CIL 650. And we're back with plenty more after this.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.